Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Exploring Medical. So I am back with the human anatomy series. So today we are going to discuss about the bone of the upper limb, which is longest and strongest bone, that is humerus. So in last video we have discussed about scapula, clavicle, and now we will discuss about humerus. So watch the entire video to make this one clear. So let's start. So humerus is divided into three parts. Humerus is divided into three parts: upper end, lower end, shaft. This one is upper end, this one is lower end, this one is shaft. So it is basically divided into three parts: upper end, lower end, shaft. Now upper end represents five structures. First is head. This one is known as head of upper limb. Then this is neck of upper limb, the line which you are able to see. Can you see this line? This is neck. Then come greater tubercle, which is on this side. Then come lesser tubercle, which is this side. And then come intertubercle sulcus, that is this one. This is intertubercle sulcus or bicipital groove or vertical groove. So these were the parts of the upper end of humerus. Now if we talk about the lower end, then it is capitulum, a lateral round convex projection. This one is capitulum. Then comes a trochlea, this one, which is a pulley shaped structure. Now above the capitulum, here comes the radial fossa, and above the trochlea comes the coronoid fossa. So this is radial fossa, this is coronoid fossa, this is capitulum, this is trochlea. Then comes a medial apical prominent projection on the medial side. So this side of the bone is known as medial, this side is known as lateral. This is known as medial lip, this is known as lateral lip. So this one is known as medial epicondyle, and this one is known as lateral epicondyle. And a large deep hollow on the posterior aspect above the trochlea. So here is trochlea, above the trochlea on the posterior aspect, this hollow surface, this one is known as olecranon process or olecranon fossa. Better is olecranon fossa. So these are the parts of lower limb: capitulum, trochlea, radial fossa, cornea fossa, medial epicondyle, lateral epicondyle, and olecranon fossa. Now if we talk about the shaft, this is this one, then it is cylindrical on the upper half. You can see this entire portion is cylindrical, and as you come down it's become flattened. So this much portion is flattened and this entire portion is cylindrical. So this is known as shaft of humerus. Now if we talk about anatomical position and side determination of humerus, the rounded upper end faces medially backward and upward. So this one is rounded head, which forms the glenohumeral joint. Then greater tubercle, lesser tubercle. This is greater tubercle, this is lesser tubercle. And bicipital groove faces anteriorly. So this three comes anteriorly: lesser tubercle, greater tubercle, lesser tubercle, and intertubercular sulcus. These come anteriorly, and olecranon fossa on lower flattened ends posteriorly. So olecranon fosses come posteriorly. So this is the anatomical position and side determination of humerus, where you have to see that rounded head comes on the upward medially and also the backward. Then lesser tubercle, greater tubercle, and bicipital groove comes anteriorly, and olecranon fossa comes posteriorly. Clear? Now we will talk features and attachments of humerus. Now upper end, that is this one, head, it is smooth and rounded. You can see because it forms the joint, so it is rounded. and it forms the 1/3 of sphere. It is covered by articular hyaline cartilage. and it is thicker in the center and thinner at periphery. Remember this feature. Now if we talk about neck, there are three types of neck: anatomical neck, surgical neck and morphological neck. These all necks are just assumptions. You cannot perfectly see here. But these all are assumptions for a better understanding. So anatomical neck is in the margin. This one is the anatomical neck which forms the margin. And it provides capsular attachment of the shoulder joint. Clear? And also to the tendon of long head of biceps brachii. So here comes the capsule of the shoulder joint. Now surgical neck. It is a short constriction in the upper end of shaft below greater and lesser tubercle. So this is greater tubercle, this is lesser tubercle. So below there, here comes the surgical neck. And surgical neck has the axillary nerve and posterior anterograph circumflex humeral vessels. The surgical neck is supplied by axillary nerve. And the surgical neck is the most common site for fracture of a humerus. And it is damage to associated nerves and vessels. The surgical neck, which is below greater and lesser. And third one is the morphological junction, which is junction between diaphysis and epiphysis. In general anatomy, we have seen diaphysis, epiphysis, metaphysis. So here diaphysis, epiphysis. Between them, there is morphological neck. So morphological neck is also above surgical neck, which is at the epithelium line in the adult bone. And it is a true junction with the shaft because it joins with the shaft. Fusion with the shaft. Now if we talk about the greater tubercle, then it is the part of the proximal end of humerus that is above, and its posterior aspect bear three muscles: upper, middle and lower, and it has attachment of three muscles on the posterior aspect. So this is anterior. Now if we go posterior, so this is greater tubercle here, and the posterior aspect of the greater tubercle has three muscle attachment. Here comes the supraspinatus, then comes the infraspinatus, and then comes the teres minor. Three muscles comes in the line: supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor. And the mnemonics to remember this is SIT. So you can remember the muscle in the series by SIT for S for supraspinatus, I for infraspinatus, and T for teres minor. Now if we talk about lesser tubercle, this side, then it is on the upper end of the humerus, just above the surgical neck, and it provides attachment to subscapularis muscle. Surgical neck above the surgical neck and provides attachment to subscapularis. So here somewhere comes the subscapularis muscle. Clear? So here gives the attachment to subscapularis muscle. This was about lesser tubercle. Now if we talk about bicipital groove, which comes here, or intertubercle circles, then it is a vertical groove between lesser and greater tubercle, because greater tubercle and lesser tubercle are like this horizontally, and the vertical is bicipital. Now it consists of long head of biceps enclosed in the synovial sheath and the circumflex humeral artery, and three muscles are there. That is, pectoralis major on the lateral lip of the groove. This is lateral lip. So here lateral lip. So here comes the pectoralis major. Then teres major on the medial lip of the groove. It is the medial epicondyle where there is a medial lip. So here comes the teres major. Here comes the pectoralis major. And latissimus dorsal in the floor of the groove. Here is the bicipital groove, and the floor of the groove has latissimus dorsi. So mnemonics to remember this muscle is lady between two majors. Lady L for latissimus dorsi, and two major is pectoralis major and teres major. Clear? Now if we talk about the shaft, this portion, it has three borders, three surfaces. Now if we talk about border, anterior border, it starts from the lateral lip, that is here in the intertubercle circles, and extends down to the anterior margin of the deltoid tuberosity. Here comes the deltoid tuberosity. So this entire portion is known as anterior border, and it has the radial fossa, which comes like this, attached with the radial groove. Now if we talk about the medial border, it is on the medial lip of the intertuberculous circle, and the lower part forms the medial epicondylar ridge. So this is known as medial epicondylar ridge, which is sharp, and it has the rough strip on the middle of this border provides insertion of the coracobrachialis muscle. Clear to everyone? So here, that is medial border which starts from the medial epicondyle, gives attachment to coracobrachialis muscle, where here, and a narrow area on the medial epicondyle provides origin to humeral head of the pronator teres. So here comes the origin of pronator teres, below the medial epicondyle. Remember, origin and insertion. Sometimes you might forget whether it is origin or insertion, so do remember clearly. Now if we talk about the lateral border, which is on the posterior aspect of the lower limb, which forms the lateral supracondylar ridge. So this is lateral supracondylar ridge, like medial, this is lateral supracondylar, and above the lateral supracondylar ridge, it is ill-defined but trabecal. About its middle, this border is crossed by the radial groove. Here it is crossed by the radial groove, as I have told earlier. And the lower part of this border, that is lateral supracondylar ridge, provides attachment to lateral intercallus septum. So here is the lateral supracondylar ridge, and it provides to lateral intermuscular septum. Now if we talk about surfaces, first surface is anterolateral surface. It lies on the anterior border and lateral. This is anterior, this is lateral. So anterior lateral surface, and it has a deltoid tuberosity, as we have already told, and it gives attachment to the deltoid tuberosity, where the deltoid muscle is there. Here is somewhere deltoid muscle. If we talk about anterior medial, which is anteriorly and medial border, then the upper floor of this muscle is supported by intertubercular sulcus, that is bicipital groove. Here comes the bicipital groove, and nutriment foramen is directed downward. So here passes the nutriment foramen. Now if we talk about the posterior surface, this one, then it lies between medial and lateral borders. Its upper 1/3 surface gives the origin to lateral head of triceps brachii. So here this much portion is supported by the origin of lateral head of triceps brachii. Then comes the radial groove. Here comes the radial groove, and then on the 2/3 below the radial groove or spiral groove comes the medial head of triceps brachii. So this is lateral head of triceps brachii, this is medial head of triceps brachii, and here comes the lateral groove. Now if we talk about the lower end, that is this one, and as we have already discussed, it has capitulum, trochlea, and ulnar nerve is in the posterior surface above the trochlea. So this is trochlea, and here passes the ulnar nerve like this. Do remember, okay? And anterior surface of the medial epicondyle. So this is medial epicondyle. So anterior surface of the medial epicondyle gives origin to common flexor muscles. Here comes the common flexor origin, and on the lateral epicondyle comes the common extensor origin. So here common flexor origin, here comes the common extensor origin above the radial fossa and third. Okay. And now posterior surface of the lateral epicondyle, that is, this is lateral epicondyle, posterior surface of the lateral epicondyle, where the coronoid fossa is there, which gives the full flexion of this one. And the posterior surface of the lateral epicondyle gives the origin to aconius muscle. So here it is aconius muscle. Now if we talk about the olecranon process, then olecranon process, if we talk about it anteriorly, then it gives the origin to the capsule of the elbow joint. Anteriorly it is present above the coronoid and radial fossa and coronoid, above radial and coronoid elbow joint, capsule of elbow joint, and posteriorly above the olecranon fossa. Getting? Now if we talk about the ossification of the humerus, then it has three centers. One primary center is present in the shaft, 3 secondary centers are present in the upper hand and 4 secondary centers are present in the lower end. And all of this starts the ossification from 4th year to 18th year, and by 20th year all of these areas are ossified. Different areas are there, you can refer in your. Okay. Now if we talk about the clinical correlation of the humerus, then nerves. First is axillary nerve, which is provided in the surgical neck. Then the radial groove, it is radial nerve, and the posterior aspect of the olecranon process or medial labial condyle is the ulnar nerve. So these three nerves are damaged in the fracture, and surgical neck is the common site. Now in the olecranon process, there is the lower fragment where the medial nerve and brachial artery passes, and this injury to brachial artery causes Volkmann's ischemic contracture and myositis ossificans. So these are all about the clinical correlation of the humerus. So this was all about the humerus. In case of any doubt regarding the humerus, you can ask in the comment section, and try to recall all the previous one and this one by looking into your book. Also try to remember all the muscle attachment and everything, and in case of doubt you can ask in the comment section. Okay, thank you, have a good day.